What's up, family? What's happening? Hope all is well. I'm coming at you today, actually from home, getting ready, program a little bit later. But I wanted to have a little conversation about God on this Halloween day. I probably shouldn't have said that because that means I can't use this video no more. But anyway, um, it is Halloween 2022, and I'm sitting up here thinking about hallowed Eve and evil, God and stuff, right? Not in a religious sense, but in a philosophical sense, right? What is God? Who is God? How does God affect my existence? This mystery of the self, if you will. This metaphysical question about what it is that makes me me, the ontology of me, but nobody really asked me if I wanted to exist, right? No one said, Julius, do you want to come to Earth, right? On December 29th? You know, kind of like, boom, one day I wasn't there and another day I was, right? Is that how we got here? Now, I ain't talking about mom and daddy listening to a little Teddy Pendergrass, right? Or Drake, Sorry. Drake ain't no rapper. But anyway, uh, is there a real reason we're here? Right? Do our lives have any real significance? In many cases, that depends kind of on whether or not God exists, right? And so, at one level, at least I want to make a question to you. Do you think that life has no meaning or significance if I don't believe in God? That's the first thing I want you to write down. First question I want you to think about. But I'm here to say I'm not sure that's what I'm saying. But I am saying, though, the converse, if God didn't exist or doesn't exist, then there is no sort of objective reason for my life. There's no purpose, no sense of vocation. And there are atheists, right, who would echo that, would say that, if atheism is indeed true, those who don't believe in God is true, then maybe life is truly absurd. As some of you know, one of my favorite atheists is Albert Camus, who talks about the absurdity. Even though I'm a Christian existentialist, I like Camus though. So how does this work? If God does not exist, then everything around the sort of the physical world, that's it. That's all we got. And my existence is just happenstance, just a cog in the wheel, a flow of how nature operates. It means that we're not intentionally designed. It don't mean that, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. No. It don't mean that if God doesn't exist. But come to think about it, if God doesn't exist, then for my ethics students, there's no like standard of morality. There's no deontological principle, no ethical absolutism. The physical universe is sort of the material, the universe is all we got. And no purpose. Maybe not even evil. Because what's the opposite? How do we justify evil, right? Through goodness. Like, how do we justify goodness? Through some objective principles. If we ain't got no objective principles, then there's no evil or goodness. Maybe everything is indifferent, i.e., absurdity. But I'm not saying that. I believe there are atheists. I know a couple, not many that I kick it with, but there are some atheists who live some good lives. I'm just saying that there's no objective idea of goodness or evil. And so maybe it's all about this, we want to thrive. We want to, quote unquote, in the Aristotelian, Aristotle would say, we just want to be happy. You know, the problem with that, you got folk like, Hitler, who thought that it would flourish humanity if we killed Jews. Right? You got colonialists who felt our empire would grow if we enslaved Africans, God's people. So if atheism is true, then there's no sort of legitimate basis, thinking ethically, of judging not just right or wrong, but what's better or worse. Because it really doesn't matter how you live your life. Just live your life. Hey, right? It don't matter. Because day-to-day choices would be meaningless. Have no purpose. Have no end, no telos. Right? T-L-E-O-S, right? No telos. But then, the true mystery of self and soul, if you die, then what? What happens when you die? Well, the materialists would say, you just die. You cease to exist. One person who kind of lived a good life, went to church, did good things, did the service learning, got good grades, got a good job, took care of the family. Another person, straight asshole, cruel, selfish. It doesn't matter how you live. They both gonna live. They both gonna die. The outcome is the same: death and nothingness. Or to quote Heidegger, being and nothingness. No, that's Sartre. Sorry. So, to the atheist, how can their life have objective meaning? Well, I guess if you did something, right? You won the Guinness World Record for something. Cure for cancer or Alzheimer's. Back in church, we sing a song called Build Your Hopes on Things Eternal. Hold to God's unchanging hands. Take yourself out of yourself and find some objective reality, the religious person says. The atheist says there is no such thing. So there's a sense to which the atheist must believe or choose between being happy or being morally consistent. Now, truth is, it's hard to be an atheist, right? I mean, how do you live like an atheist, right? How do you truly be an atheist, right? If you're a Christian, right? I mean, I guess you live like Christ, but who do you live like as an atheist? Don't say the devil because you're an atheist. There is no antithesis. Right? But for religious folk, especially the monotheistic folk, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, each one of us has a reason for life. And life doesn't end at the grave, right? And there is some sort of absolute goodness, right? So why should we choose God? Why should we choose God? If you read up on God, right? First of all, depending on where you're at, I remember when I was in college, I took a class at the Howard University School of Divinity. And this class talked about the attributes of God, right? And one of the things that the professor didn't want us to call God He, right? How can we call God He? What is God like? Is it a He? Do we know what God truly likes? Right? And if we have an answer, then we're saying that God is some type of personalized or sort of entity that has the same type of characteristics as humans. So God wouldn't have a spirit. We wouldn't be a spirit God, would it? Even though some people claim that God is both God, the Father, and the Spirit. I mean, God, Jesus, and the Spirit, the Son, and the Spirit. So, a long time ago, some philosophers, Aquinas and others, started coming up with terminology that we can determine some characteristics of God, chiefly from a sort of an a priori perspective. By a priori, we mean through reason, right? Through sort of understanding alone. Basically, that if one accepted God, especially to the Judeo-Christian, so the monotheistic, not just Judeo-Christian, but in the monotheistic sense, right, including Islamic, right? Monotheism means one God, right? God is a omni character. God has omni characteristics, right? So people like Aquinas and like even Augustine, who's one of my favorite. I think I've mentioned that before. Think about God as omniscient, right? That means God sort of knows everything. He's omnipotent, right? It means he's all powerful, all potent, right? All powerful, all good, right? Benevolent, omnibenevolent, right? Perfect goodness, right? Omnipresent, right? There and always there at the same time. Now, the funny thing is that those of us who got this stuff from church or mosque or synagogue, we went to the Bible to try to find it. It ain't there. It ain't like it was found in one of the scriptures. Certainly some philosopher made this up, right? But that's cool. And the reality is that for philosophers, though, we like to ask these crazy questions. For instance, if God could do anything, right? Can God create a rock so heavy that he can't even lift it, or God cannot even lift it? Who can answer that question, right? Right. But if he's omnipotent, he can. If he could do everything, he can, right? Because if he couldn't, then that's something he couldn't do, which means it wouldn't be God. But if he was all powerful, then he should be able to lift anything, right? And if God knows everything, then he knows the future, right? He knows the sickness, he knows the devastation, he knows the hurt, the harm. Later on, sort of this idea, probably in the next, maybe, give me a few minutes to do this. I'll probably talk about then the problem of evil. But even the idea of free will, right? God gave us free will to act, right? Are we really free? Is freedom an illusion, right? To make us feel like we're in control of our lives, right? So one way some people can think about God is that, yeah, from a philosophical perspective, yeah, I feel you, but some of these attributes just don't work well at all times and can't be true at the same time. Can't be all loving and all good at the same time, while at the same time stuff happens. It was the will of God. Okay, God willed for my little brother to get shot 15 times. I'm not sure I'm buying that. Because there's no good there. Right? From a rational, sort of a logical perspective, philosophers have to at least question the theist, the believer. Right? And so if God is omniscient, he knows everything. If we have free will, both of them can't exist at the same time. We call it logic contradictions. Either God knows everything we're going to do, or we don't know and we create it and God finds out. Right? So how do we reconcile that? That's a question you should ask. How do you reconcile this apparent contradiction of God being both omniscient and humans having free will? So in other words, God might know that we're about to do something even though God didn't cause us to do it. I guess. Right? I didn't make you do it, but I knew you was going to do that. But then why didn't you stop me, God? Right? He might have, God didn't make you do it, but God didn't stop me from doing it either. And now I'm sick. Now I'm hurt. Now I'm dead. If God is omniscient, all knowing, like we said, can God ever be wrong? God is not a man that he would lie, says the preacher. So everything that God does is true. God don't make mistakes, young man, young lady. We hear all the time. And so if God knew that I was about to walk into a home that was about to catch on fire, then it would seem like God wouldn't let me enter that home. Because if I didn't enter the home at the last minute, let's say God wanted me to, but I didn't, then maybe I proved God wrong. But then I know what you're going to say. No, God knew that I was going to change my mind, even though he knew that I wanted. Yeah, so I'll keep going. The Adjustment Bureau was like that, right? If you ain't seen that movie with Matt Damon, well, of course, my philosophy of self and soul class watched that movie for class this semester. What can God do then? These attributes. What can God do? Can God sin? Oh no. He's all good, inherently good, so he can't sin. He has a sort of a divine pureness. But if God is, watch this now, watch this logic. If God cannot sin, then it's something that God cannot do. And if it's something that God cannot do, then God cannot be omnipotent. Somebody frustrated right now. God just can't do evil. Okay, fine. I get that. I'm okay with that. I just can't run 5 miles. That's cool, but that don't make me not cool. That don't make me not the greatest guy around. That don't make me, so maybe the same thing with God. Just because God can't sin don't mean God ain't all good. God just ain't all powerful, omnipotent. It ain't hard for me to sin. I sinned already today. Maybe you say, sin is only a human attribute, Dr. Bailey. Sinning does not relate to God because of God's omnibenevolence. His benevolence then doesn't allow God to be evil. Not that he can't be in a possibility, but there's no such thing. It's a contradiction. Because to be God, by definition, by ontology, means to be good. Well, I'm with that. A lot of people can be with that. Keep your hands, drop the mic. But or somebody can get it. If God did something, then whatever God did is going to be good. Bottom line. In Latin, they call it ipso facto. By virtue of whatever God does is good, period. So then goodness to God means nothing. God just is. God ain't good. God is. It's almost circular reasoning, begging the proverbial question. God just is. God is. Sorry, it's a song. So, how do we rectify this? If God is everywhere, then maybe God doesn't experience time the way everybody else experiences time. Right? God already knows about to happen. God can't be surprised. Can God change his mind? I always wonder that. Why can't God have another son? He had one son, Jesus. How come they have another one? Maybe his name is Nas. You got that? Nazir. Right? If you missed that, then sorry. It. What about praying? Who are you praying to? And when you pray for something to happen, I pray that Dr. Bailey don't have class today. I pray he give me extension to this paper. I pray I get this job. I pray I don't bomb this exam. Are you making a request to God? A petition, as they say in Catholic Mass. Bring me your petitions to God. I'm asking God for something. Can you hook me up, homie? God did. Right? Help my mama out. She's sick. Well, maybe it doesn't mean nothing. I know what you're finna say. Prayer changes things. I gotta turn this video off. This professor crazy. I know the power of prayer. You can't tell me what God won't do if you just ask him. I know you finna tell me. I trust me. You ain't gotta do that with me. I'm speaking as a philosopher right now. Does praying make a difference? If God knows everything already, which we've already said God does because God is omniscient. If God knows everything already, then and God can do anything God wants to do because God is omnipotent. He knows already. He can do anything. And because of his benevolence, he gonna make sure that is all good. And God has already decided what's gonna happen. In every moment, omnipresent with everybody, all the time. God is good all the time, all the time. So what about those times it ain't good for you? Did God do it? Most of us say, no, the devil did it. I don't get what people say. I don't get it. How can God help you pass and the devil made you flunk? God is stronger than the devil, ain't he? I don't get it. I don't get it. God knows what was going to happen today, tomorrow, and 3 days from now. Always. So when you pray, you're asking God to do something God already planned on doing, one way or another, which means you're sitting up here wasting your time, which means you're sitting up here, what are you doing? Why pray? And not to mention, tell the deacon in the church, don't pray for 25 minutes. It's God already going to do what God going to do. Sorry, deacon. Maybe God gonna change his mind. Maybe God had planned on this way, and my prayer then changed God's mind. Maybe God thought that the who did the Warriors play last? Boston Celtics was gonna win the championship, but enough Warrior fans prayed that God changed God's mind. Don't you think Boston fans prayed too? The whole Southern gospel singers, let go and let God have his way. Let go and let God have his way. Right? Ain't nothing you can do about it. Let go. Think you better let it go. Sorry, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Oof. So if God knows best, let me close this up and keep moving. If God knows best, then why would you want to change God's mind? So why would you want to pray? What's the sense about it? Right? When we speak of God, like somebody like Aquinas would say something like, we speak of God, we never say anything that's true. Instead, we have to speak in sort of analogies. That's all we got. God isn't our father, really. Father's creation, okay. But why father? Why not mother? Mother Earth, Mother Universe. Maybe we say, okay, God's role is father like. Some of us mothers take care of them better than their fathers do. So what is God? Who is God? Right? When it's cold in Florida, 40s and 50s, it ain't cold in Alaska. Maybe that's how our analogies to God is. It ain't complete. I don't know. Maybe since those attributes, omniscience, benevolence, omnipresence, since they really ain't in the Bible, maybe God ain't that. Old Testament then showed you God did some stuff. If it happened today, y'all wouldn't say it was good. Imagine a flood today. Imagine a famine today. Everybody be trying to get out of school to go work. Everybody be trying to help out, saying prayers. Who you saying prayers to? God did. Why didn't God do that? God ain't gonna cause a hurricane. Why can't God cause a hurricane? He's done it before. I don't know. Let me close a little bit with the problem of evil then. Looking at it from a theistic perspective, the way we've been looking at it, assuming we believe in God, then operating outside of that, then one of the most important challenges is, like I said earlier, I want to end up with is the problem of evil. Why is there evil in the world? Right? Some people say the world is full of evil, evil people, evil places, badness, hurt, harm, danger, despair. And the theists want to hold on to these divine attributes, while the atheists say those attributes create a contradiction. Evil has to be bad, right? COVID was bad, right? You lost auntie, mama, grandmama. Gotta be bad, right? What was God's role in COVID-19? If God is all knowing, then God knew this was about to happen. And if he knew it was about to happen and he didn't stop it, how does that make him all good? And the evil just keep happening and happening. And we just keep going to church and praying and praying. And the evil just keep happening and happening. And someday we have to ask the question, God, do you hear me? Do you see what's going on around me? So Job or Jonah-like conditions getting swallowed up by society. Well, maybe we give up on one of those attributes. Maybe God isn't powerful enough to stop evil. Maybe he don't know everything and everything about everything. And maybe he ain't good enough to care about what's going on. Like Doughboy said in Boys in the Hood. Either they don't know, they don't show, they just don't care what goes on in the hood. Is God jealous? God is a jealous God. Ain't that petty? He should have no other gods before me. That's petty, isn't it? God had anger issues now. The problem of evil is all over the Old Testament. Genocide, wiping out entire folk. But yet we still hold on to those attributes. All good, all loving, all knowing, all powerful. Your term, let me kind of wrap this up. Theodicy. 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 Theodicy is the sort of the study or the question of whether or not the existence of evil rules out God and God's existence. The theodicy question, right? Obviously, you can address theodicy through free will. Right? God just tried to maximize goodness, created people, and hope people did the right thing. Right? God can't take freedom away. God that can't evil away. If he took evil away, well, first of all, God didn't create evil, some would say. So in that sense, theodicy would raise the question that, well, God didn't really create evil, but evil just can't be avoided. And the only way to avoid it is if somehow or another God takes away our freedom, which then means we don't have free will. which means most of us ain't going to be happy in that situation either. What's the world without free will? So, be in front of you long. God didn't want us to say God allows evil or does evil, or I don't know. Maybe that good can't exist without evil. I don't believe that, but maybe you do. Maybe joy can't exist without pain. Maybe triumph won't exist without tests. No pleasure without pain. What does it mean to be warm if I wasn't cold? How would we know we're full if we weren't ever hungry? Maybe that's how the world is. The world ain't perfect, like some people would say. John Hick and other philosophers. Intelligent design. Maybe the world ain't ain't perfect. Maybe the world is just a testing ground, right? This is a logical problem, right? That is a logical problem. A priori problem don't really help why evil exists other than just evil folk. But evil folk ain't got nothing to do with cancer, HIV/AIDS, hurricanes that cause destruction. Yesterday or the other day, what was that, in Indonesia? Right? I don't know. Maybe there's more good than bad, and so life is just about proportionality. This is the kind of stuff that we think about in this section, in this conversation. We think about God. Let's see the proofs of God's existence, obviously, trying to figure out whether or not God have different sort of ways of looking at it, but ultimately, there's still a lot of questions. All right, that's about 40 minutes. I didn't talk enough. God bless you. Think about those questions, and we'll resume another day. Take care.